Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shot Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your comment down below with what your college basketball picks are for Tuesday's games. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can always find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games in college hoops for Tuesday. First up, it's Ohio and Buffalo. This one's going to be 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN+. Going into the season, Buffalo is not a team that was on my radar because this is a very inexperienced team. Lost a lot of production from last year's roster. They're ranked 342nd in D1 experience this season. But I think when you have a young team like that doesn't have a lot of D1 experience, it's really important to schedule non-conference schedules that are going to test you and really prepare you for when you get to conference play. When you're playing in a solid conference like the MAC, one of the better mid-major conferences in my opinion, and you play a tough schedule like Buffalo did, that's ranked 26th in strength of schedule overall, non-conference ranked 30th in the country. You played teams like Colgate, James Madison, UConn, and Drake to open the season. You played a good amount of neutral site games and some true road games as well. And you have a good string of top 200 wins in terms of the KenPom ratings. Games against Colgate, George Mason, St. Bonaventure. So some strong wins. You played some tough teams, and you battled pretty well. Covered some spreads as big-time underdogs in some of those games. So I give credit to Buffalo, and this is a team I'm watching out for as we get into MAC play. And you look on the other side, Ohio, this is a team that benefited from a pretty weak schedule. At least, when they stepped it up in competition, they didn't fare too well, and their wins were mostly against some weaker teams. You look, their only top 150 KenPom win this season was against Youngstown State. That was a road game, but it was only by 2 points. Their other wins against Cleveland State, Eastern Illinois, Alabama State, a subdivision opponent, Stetson, Delaware, Chicago State, just nothing too impressive and not what you're going to see in a MAC conference game. A true road game against a solid Buffalo team. This is a good defensive team. It's pretty good at forcing turnovers. They're strong at getting to the free throw line and a good free throw shooting team as well. I like Buffalo's chances in their home opener in conference play, so give me Buffalo in this spot. I think they get the W. Next up, it's Kansas and Texas Tech. This one's going to be 9 o'clock Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN2. Now, when you look at both of these teams' schedules in the non-conference schedule, we saw Kansas play a lot of home games and a good amount of neutral site games as well, but only one true road game, which is a little bit worrisome. It's not easy to go into Lubbock, a very, very good home court advantage that the Red Raiders have. And, their only true road game, though, was a big blowout win over a solid opponent for Kansas. It was against Missouri, 95-67, a blowout win almost by 30 points against a good Missouri team, top 35 in KenPom right now. On the other side, you look at Texas Tech. This was a team that scheduled a pretty weak non-conference schedule, and the 3 times where they really stepped it up in competition, 2 non-conference games against Creighton and Ohio State, and then 1 conference game in their first conference game of the season against TCU. They lost all 3 of those games. They lost to Creighton by 11, Ohio State by 7, and in their most recent game, a 6-point loss to TCU. So that concerns me when you're playing one of the better teams in the country, and every time you stepped it up, you've struggled. And you look at Texas Tech, their most impressive win this year, probably their 9-point victory over Louisiana Tech back on November 14th. That's their highest-rated opponent in terms of KenPom ratings, while Kansas, on the other side, yes, they haven't played a lot of true road games, but they have already beaten Duke, NC State, Wisconsin, Seton Hall, Missouri, Indiana, Oklahoma State, all these top 100 teams in KenPom. They're 14th in adjusted offensive efficiency, 10th on the defensive end, so they're pretty balanced. Yes, they haven't played a lot of road games, but I think their resume is still a lot more impressive. I think they are the better team. So give me the defending champs here, the Jayhawks, laying the points on the road. Next up, we see Syracuse taking on Louisville. This one's going to be 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPNU. Now, we've talked about Syracuse in their most recent games, their last 2 games on the Bank Shot Breakdown. Against Pittsburgh back on December 20th, we faded the Orange because that 2-3 zone is susceptible to teams that can shoot the 3-point shot at a high rate, and Pittsburgh was on fire from 3 going into that game. They shot very well from 3 in that game and found the outright victory over Syracuse in that one, 84-82, and Pittsburgh ended 13 of 32 from 3, 40.6%. But then in Syracuse's next game, we were back on the Orange against Boston College, as that was a Boston College team that was near the bottom of the country in 3-point shooting as a roster, and let alone, Syracuse wins that game by 14 points, covering by about 2 buckets. And then, we're going to look to make it 3-0 in our last 3 Syracuse games. I'm going to go back on the orange in this game as you're facing a Louisville team that's ranked 307th in adjusted offensive efficiency. They are 280th in three-point shooting, so I just don't think they're going to be able to beat that 2-3 zone. They're also not very good on the offensive glass, 285th in offensive rebounding percentage, and they also turn the ball over a ton, and Syracuse's 2-3 zone is going to force some turnovers most seasons, and already this year, top 100 in turnover percentage on defense. So I think Louisville struggles from the perimeter. I think they have issues turning the ball over. They don't get those second chance opportunities. So where's the offense consistently going to be for Louisville in this game? I just don't see it. I'm going to take Syracuse. I think their offense does enough here on the road to grab a win and a cover in the end. Next up, we see Ole Miss taking on Alabama. This one, 9 o'clock Eastern on SEC Network. Ole Miss has played in a lot of low-scoring games this year, but we see a total set at 145.5 for this game, and I think it's for good reason. I do like the over in this matchup, believe it or not. When you look on the other side, Alabama knows how to score plenty of points and points in bunches. They're 19th ranked in adjusted offensive efficiency and 12th ranked in average possession length. And that fast-paced offense, it bodes well for Alabama overall. They're a good shooting team. They get to the free throw line a ton, and they're also a really good offensive rebounding team. But they do have some issues when it comes to turnovers. We see them sloppy a little bit offensively because of that pace. And Ole Miss, Alabama's ranked 331st in turnover percentage on offense. Ole Miss top 100 in turnover percentage on defense. So I do think Ole Miss is going to have some opportunities in the fast break off a turnover to score some buckets in this game. And even though this is not a very good shooting team on paper for Ole Miss, they are a good offensive rebounding team. And I do think that their numbers shooting-wise are going to get better as the season continues. And, Alabama, this is a team that can score 80-plus, 90-plus a night almost. And even against this solid Ole Miss defense, I do think it's a little bit of an overrated Ole Miss defense. I think we see some scoring from both of these teams in this matchup. Give me the over 145.5. This could be a track meet between these two, so give me the over. And the final game we're to talk about for Tuesday's card in college basketball, it's between Notre Dame and Boston College. We go back to the ACC for this one, and this game 7 o'clock Eastern on ACC Network. Boston College and Notre Dame, they split the season series last year. Both home teams won, so the home game for Boston College, it was a double-digit win, 73-57, and at the time, that was a big upset win for BC, as Notre Dame was ranked 38th in KenPom going into that one. And then we saw on the other side, Notre Dame, they won their game at home last year. It was a really good game, 99-95 in overtime, so a 4-point OT win for Notre Dame. But we know Boston College wasn't really that good of a team last year. They were ranked outside the top 100 in KenPom, just as they are this year, but they still played really well and really competitively against that Notre Dame team. Now, this season, Notre Dame's not so competitive. They're ranked 110th right now in KenPom, and they played a pretty easy non-conference schedule at the beginning of the season. They started their first 5 games against teams outside the top 100, and then they played some tougher teams. We saw St. Bonaventure, Syracuse, Marquette, Georgia, Notre Dame losing all of those games. Really, their most impressive win was against Michigan State, and we're starting to see the Spartans slip a little bit after their good start to the year. To me, this is a game between offense and defense. You got Notre Dame ranked 53rd in the country in adjusted offensive efficiency, but not a very good defensive team. They don't force many turnovers, and they're ranked 205th in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency. On the other side, you got a Boston College offense that's not scoring much, not a very good shooting team, but they are a pretty good defensive team and a good defensive rebounding team. I do like their chances in this game to grab a win at home. Just like I said, BC won a double-digit victory over a much better Notre Dame team last year, and I do think that the defense is going to lead the way in this one. Give me Boston College at home, a place where they do play pretty well. I'm going to take BC to end the night. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bet, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.